The man next to me on the plane was eating my food. I blinked at the empty spot on my tray table. My sandwich, my $14 turkey pesto sandwich I bought before boarding, was in his hands. Half gone. Like it had never belonged to me at all. I'd just gotten back from the bathroom. It was a red-eye flight, middle seat, back of the plane. I'd left the sandwich in its paper bag, tucked politely to the corner of the tray. He had headphones in, watching a movie, casually chewing, oblivious. At first, I thought I must have been wrong. Maybe it was his. Maybe I was being dramatic. Then I saw the receipt still in the bag, folded with my name on it. I tapped him lightly. Sorry. I think you're eating my sandwich. He looked down at the half-eaten sandwich in his hand, blinked and shrugged. Oh, my bad, he mumbled, then kept eating. Didn't even offer it back. Like it wasn't a big deal. That was it. That's stupid. Greasy. Shrug. I had this flash me at 7 years old, my cousin grabbing the last empanada off my plate, my mom whispering, "Just let it go. Don't make a scene." And I almost did. I almost laughed it off, like always. Shrugged with him. Let it slide. But something inside me snapped. No, I said. Actually, no. You don't get to take up my space and then eat my damn food. His head whipped toward me. So did the woman in the aisle seat. Even the flight attendant, walking by with a trash bag, paused. You're serious? He asked. I reached over and hit the call button. Completely. The flight attendant returned a second later. I looked her in the eye. He took my food, and he's been shoving me into this window for 5 hours. I want to be moved. She blinked. I'm sorry. We might not have another seat. Then you can tell him to move, I said. Because I paid for the seat. All of it. Not half. She looked from me to the man. He raised his hands like I was the unreasonable one. But something in my voice must have convinced her I wasn't budging. She cleared her throat. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to trade with a passenger in the last row. He scoffed, stood up, and left without another word. I exhaled. I could feel eyes on me. I could feel everything, my heartbeat in my ears, the sweat at my collarbone, the leftover crumbs on my tray. The woman in the aisle gave me a small, stunned smile. Good for you, she whispered. I didn't respond. I was too busy shaking. The plane landed 40 minutes later. As soon as I had signal, my phone exploded. 15 missed calls. 3 voicemails. A string of texts from my younger sister, B. Mara, call me now. Mom's losing it. He went through your room. He took everything. We think he's gone. My stomach dropped. I called her. She answered on the first ring, already crying. He left, Mara. Sean left. He packed his things while you were in the air. What? He showed up this afternoon. Told Mom you were overbearing, selfish. That he was tired of pretending. He took his computer, all his clothes, and your tablet. The one you use for commissions. I didn't say anything. My voice wasn't working. And there's a note. On your desk. I didn't read it. But Mom's been screaming about how you chased him off with your pride. I had no idea what was happening. Sean and I had been fine. We'd had a dumb fight last week, yeah, about me not wanting to take a lowball offer from a client. He said I was being unreasonable. Said I should be grateful anyone wanted to hire a freelance illustrator during a recession. I told him I wasn't going to keep shrinking just to make people comfortable. And he'd gone silent after that. I thought he just needed space. Not this. I got off the call and opened my banking app. I don't know why. Instinct. I stared at the balance. $27.38. My savings account? Empty. He knew the passwords. We'd shared them when things were good. I never changed them. I didn't think I had to. Oh, God. I sat down on the curb outside the terminal, the Portland wind cutting through my sweatshirt. My fingers were stiff, but I kept scrolling through texts, old emails, anything that could make sense of this. Instead, I found one from 2 weeks ago. Sean. Just sign this so I can move some stuff around for taxes. It's not a big deal. Attached, a PDF. I'd signed it without reading. I was rushing to meet a client deadline. I trusted him. I opened it again now. It wasn't a tax form. It was a release of ownership. He'd sold my designs under his name, and I'd signed it away. I sat there for a full minute, my ears ringing. People passed by. A family laughing. A man talking on his phone. A little girl dragging her glittery suitcase behind her. The world didn't stop. But I did. Then I stood. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I opened my phone's notes app and wrote 4 words. I don't disappear anymore. I hit save, shouldered my duffel bag, and walked into the city like I had nothing left to lose. Because now I didn't go home. I told the driver an address I hadn't said out loud in years, and climbed into the back seat with my bag clutched like a lifeline. It was nearly midnight when I knocked on the door of a basement apartment in southeast Portland. The hallway light was burned out, the buzzer didn't work, and for a second I thought she might not answer. Then the door opened, and Jules stood there in mismatched socks and a hoodie with a bleach stain across the chest, blinking like she couldn't tell if I was real or a ghost she'd conjured in her sleep. "Jesus," she said. "Did someone die?" "I think I did," I said, and walked past her into the warmth without asking if it was okay. Jules didn't ask questions at first. She didn't hug me or offer tea or do anything people in movies do when an old friend shows up destroyed. She just shut the door and locked it, then followed me into the small kitchen and leaned against the counter while I sat on a stool and opened my bag, pulling out my sketchbook, a charger, a pair of socks with a hole in one heel, and a half-eaten granola bar. That was everything I had left. "Sean emptied my accounts," I said. "He left while I was on a plane. Took my tablet, took my files, sold my designs under his name. My mom thinks it's my fault. My clients think I flaked. I can't go back there." Jules crossed her arms. "How much money did he take?" "All of it." She didn't blink. "Did you call the cops?" "No." He covered his tracks. "He got me to sign a fake release. Technically, I gave him permission. You're not sleeping in a shelter. You're staying here," she said, then reached for the cupboard and pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 mugs. "And I don't want to hear some noble bullshit about not wanting to be a burden." "I haven't seen you in 2 years," I said. "Yeah, well, you picked a hell of a way to catch up." We drank without toasting. I told her everything in the space of 20 minutes, how Sean had been slowly turning cold for months, how he'd criticized every job I took, how he made jokes about my weight that sounded like compliments until they didn't, how I thought I was protecting the relationship by keeping the peace, how I didn't even know how long he'd been planning to leave. He said I was selfish, I said. That I don't know how to take care of people. That I'm always looking for reasons to be mad instead of grateful. Jules didn't speak for a while. Then she got up, pulled something out of a drawer, and slammed it on the table in front of me. It was a sticky note with a scribbled name and phone number. "Call this woman. Her name's Kayla. She runs a pop-up gallery downtown. She's looking for new illustrators. You show her your work, tell her what happened, and do not discount your rates." "I'm not ready." "You're broke. You're homeless. You're ready." I didn't sleep much that night. I lay on Jules's old futon, staring at the ceiling, hearing Sean's voice in every crack of silence. I remembered the way he used to say my name when he was irritated, flat, like it tasted wrong. I remembered how he made me feel grateful he hadn't left sooner. I didn't know how many of my memories were real anymore, and which ones I'd softened to keep surviving. In the morning, Jules was already gone, but she'd left coffee and a note. "Call Kayla. Today. No excuses." I sat at the table for 20 minutes before picking up my phone. The call rang twice. A clipped, curious voice answered. "Kayla, my name's Mara Reyes. I'm a freelance illustrator. Jules gave me your number." "Okay. Show me something." "Now." "You called now. I assume you're serious." I scrambled for my sketchbook, took a picture of the page I'd worked on during the flight, half a figure, arms folded across her chest, eyes closed, body taking up the whole frame unapologetically, and sent it. She was quiet for a beat. Then, "I like it. You available tonight?" "For what?" "There's an event. Women reclaiming physical presence in creative spaces. One night only. I lost my feature artist this morning. You want it? I didn't answer right away. My hands were shaking. I thought about saying no, about saying I needed time. But I'd said no to too many things I wanted, and yes to everything that shrunk me. So I said yes. Good, she said. Wear black. Bring pieces that scare you. By 5 p.m., I was in the back of Jules's car with a borrowed portfolio, clothes that didn't quite fit, and a sick feeling in my stomach. The gallery was in a warehouse with no sign, just a red door and a line of people already forming. Kayla met me inside. She was sharp-eyed, no nonsense, and 20 seconds into our conversation, she said, "You've been through some shit. Don't bleed all over the work. Let people feel it without telling them what to feel." I wasn't planning on talking, I said. You will, she said. Tonight? On stage. 2 minutes. Say something that matters. I wanted to walk out, but I stayed. And when the lights went down and the crowd turned toward me, I stood in front of strangers and told them the truth. I spent most of my life trying to be small enough to love. But I'm done apologizing for the space I take up. The room didn't erupt. No one gasped. But no one looked away either. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was taking anything. I felt like I was finally returning what was always mine. I got a message from my mother an hour after the gallery closed. It wasn't a text. It was a voicemail, tight, formal, and rehearsed. She said she didn't understand what I was doing or why I was choosing to shame the family publicly. She mentioned the Instagram stories from the event, how someone had tagged me in a video clip. She asked if I had forgotten I was part of something bigger than myself. She told me B was struggling and didn't need the extra stress. She said Sean had come by again, apparently with a calm explanation and apologies. Then, her voice sharpened. She asked if I planned to fix things or if this was who I'd become now. She didn't wait for an answer. I listened to it twice. Then I blocked her number. Jules came into the kitchen as I stood over the sink. You look like you're about to punch a wall, she said, opening the fridge. Want to talk or break something first? I should have seen this coming. She took his side? She didn't even hesitate. He stole from me. Lied to me. And all she wanted to know was if I planned to fix it. Jules grabbed a soda and leaned on the counter. Your mom has always needed her stories to stay clean. Sean made it easy to keep the narrative simple. You walking away doesn't. He went to her. He knew exactly what to say. He's turning her into a mouthpiece. She was already primed for it. I stared at the sink and said nothing. That night, Kayla messaged me. She offered a short-term paid spot at her shared studio downtown, tiny space, not glamorous, but rent covered for 6 weeks. I accepted before I had time to overthink it. The next morning, I packed my sketchbooks, found a cheap replacement tablet on Craigslist, and moved into a windowless corner desk that smelled like sawdust and permanent marker. The woman across from me sculpted things out of old wire and bits of plastic. She didn't introduce herself. She just nodded once and went back to twisting metal. The first week was productive. I got 2 new commissions. One client paid in full on time. The other ghosted after I refused to lower my rate. Jules kept pushing me to raise my prices. I wasn't there yet, but I didn't bend either. That felt like progress. On the 8th day, Sean texted me. Sean, we need to talk. One conversation. In person. That's all I'm asking. You owe me that much. I deleted it. He texted again the next morning. Then that night. Then he sent an email with a subject line that made my stomach twist. Usage dispute, illustration licensing. Inside was a short message. Per our signed agreement, I retain the right to license the work to third-party vendors. If you're continuing to sell or publicly display any of the disputed designs, you are in breach of contract. Sean. He attached a PDF of the same document I signed before he left. It looked official. My signature was at the bottom. In bold, he had highlighted the paragraph where I'd supposedly agreed to transfer creative ownership. I didn't remember that line. I brought it to Kayla the next morning. She read it in silence, then pulled out her phone and took pictures of every page. You're not selling those pieces anymore, right? No. I stopped as soon as he left. Good. Keep them in your portfolio for now. Don't remove them, don't make a scene, and don't reply. Let me handle it. I can't afford a lawyer. I didn't say lawyer. I said me. I opened my mouth to argue, but she cut me off. He's not suing. He's flexing. Trying to get you to come crawling back so he can play magnanimous. You sound certain. I've dealt with men like him for 15 years. By the end of the week, 3 of my oldest clients emailed me to say they'd decided to go in a different direction. One included a copy of a logo I had designed 3 months ago. It was now listed under Sean's name on a freelance site. He hadn't even changed the color palette. I walked out of the studio and didn't come back for 2 days. Jules didn't ask what happened. She knew. I stayed in bed and barely touched my food. I kept my laptop closed. I kept my hands away from my sketchbook. Everything I'd built was either stolen or smeared. Every time I tried to think about how to fight back, I heard my mother's voice again, asking if I had forgotten who I was. I didn't forget. I was trying to find out. On the 3rd morning, Jules came into the room holding my phone. You've got a call. I'm not picking up. It's not him. It's B. I sat up. She handed it to me and walked out. Hello? Her voice was low. I think Mom's losing it. What happened? She asked me to lie for her. To tell you I overheard Sean apologizing. That he regretted everything. That he still loves you. I said nothing. She wants you to come home. She said she'd help smooth things over. That it's time for you to stop being dramatic. She still thinks this is about being dramatic? She wants to control the fallout. She's embarrassed. She doesn't care about fixing anything, Mara. She just wants you quiet. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of watching her burn through people. I'm tired of keeping her clean. I closed my eyes. You're not the only one who wants out, B said. I didn't speak. I didn't promise anything. I just sat there holding the phone, realizing for the first time that maybe I wasn't the only one who had been suffocating. I met Kayla at a dive bar on the east side, the kind of place where the jukebox was always broken and no one looked up when someone new walked in. She was already 2 drinks in, her coat draped over the stool next to her. I hadn't planned on going out that night, but she'd sent a one-line message that didn't give me a choice. Come now. It's time you stopped letting him write your story. I slid onto the stool. She didn't offer a greeting. He sent me another email this morning, I said. Said he's been asked to speak on a panel about design ethics next month. Wants to include the work we co-created as part of his portfolio. Kayla didn't flinch. Do you want to fight him in court or in public? I don't have the money for court. Then go public. She pulled a flash drive from her coat pocket and set it on the bar between us. Every timestamp, every draft you sent me, all the screenshots from when he still posted the work under your name. I've compiled it. That's not going to stop him. No, but it will ruin his story. I looked at the flash drive but didn't touch it. I need to ask you something, I said. She finally turned to face me. What? Why are you helping me? You barely know me. Kayla signaled the bartender and waited until he walked away. Because I watched someone I trusted take credit for my work and my voice when I was younger, and I kept my mouth shut for 2 years because I thought being agreeable would save me. It didn't. I disappeared. And it took me longer than I want to admit to come back. I didn't even fight when he took the credit, I said. I gave him the opening. That doesn't mean you deserved what he did with it. Her voice was low and steady. It didn't need to be loud to carry weight. Later that night, I went back to the studio. It was past midnight. I didn't turn on the overhead lights. I sat at my desk and opened a new file. I worked without stopping, no client notes, no deadlines, no sketches to guide the composition. Just one long image, a sequence of bodies in motion, tight shoulders, downcast eyes, then straighter backs, chins lifting, mouths open not in protest but in assertion. I built the figures out of angles and shadows, no faces. By the time I finished, the sun was coming up. Kayla saw it the next morning. She didn't speak right away. Can we use this in the campaign? She finally asked. You let us publish it as yours, under your name everywhere. Full attribution. We'll release it with your story. No edits. We'll protect the copyright. I nodded. That night, she posted the piece on the gallery site, followed by a short write-up about what had happened, how my designs had been stolen, how the legal loopholes failed, how this piece was my response. She didn't make it dramatic. She didn't accuse Sean by name. She just told the truth, plainly. 3 hours later, my inbox was flooded. Some were supportive. Some were quiet acknowledgments from other women who'd had work stolen, erased, absorbed into someone else's voice. But one message stood out. It was from a woman named Carmen. She was a creative director at a publishing house in Seattle. She said she had seen the piece, that it cut through the noise. She asked if I had a full portfolio and whether I would be open to a short-term contract. I stared at the screen, rereading it twice, 3 times. Jules walked in behind me, still holding her sandwich. That from him? No. Better. I turned the screen so she could see. She didn't react with shock or celebration. She just gave a slow nod, like something inevitable had finally arrived. You're going to say yes, right? I don't know yet. She sat beside me, pulled off a piece of bread from her sandwich, and said, "You can say yes to things that scare you. That's not the same as saying yes to being stepped on." I sent Carmen a sample of my work the next morning. She responded with a 2-week timeline, a contract, and a payment offer that made my breath catch. It was more than I had made in the last 3 months combined. I signed it that afternoon. That should have been the turn, but things never stay clean. 2 days later, my uncle called from Manila. My mother had collapsed in the market. Her blood pressure had spiked, she was in the hospital, and they didn't know if it was stress or something worse. I hadn't spoken to her since I blocked her. I wasn't even sure she'd want to see me. Jules watched me pack my bag. "You going back?" "I think I have to." That's not an answer. I'm not going for her. I'm going to say the things I should have said when I still thought being quiet was love. The flight to Manila was long and cramped. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't give up my armrest once. My mother was awake when I arrived. Tubes, monitors, too pale, but conscious. She looked at me like she was trying to decide if she'd imagine me. "You came," she said. "I didn't come to apologize." She blinked, said nothing. "I came because you're my mother and you're sick, and I don't want regret to be the only thing tying us together." "You humiliated me," she said quietly. "All our friends saw that post." "He humiliated me." "You chose to be embarrassed by my survival." She turned her head toward the window. I waited. The monitor beeped steadily. "I didn't know how to protect you," she said after a long silence. "So I tried to make you small enough to avoid pain. I thought if you weren't loud, you wouldn't be a target. I've been a target anyway." I know. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But something heavy lifted between us, even if only slightly. On the flight back, I started sketching the next piece. 2 weeks after the campaign launched, someone filed a formal takedown request on my portfolio site. The email came from a firm I'd never heard of, but the language was familiar, flat, polished, and full of quiet threat. They claimed my work infringed on content previously submitted by Sean Reyes, and unless I removed it immediately, they would begin filing complaints with any platform that hosted it. Attached were screenshots of pieces I'd made long before he entered my life, all stamped with digital watermarks bearing his name. I forwarded the email to Kayla. She didn't reply. 10 minutes later, she called. "You need to get offline," she said. "Log out of everything. Don't delete anything, don't respond. Just disappear for a day." I don't understand. I thought we were ahead. We were. That was the problem. When I got to the studio, Lena was already waiting. She'd pulled up posts, tweets, Reddit threads, and comments under gallery accounts. Sean's name never appeared directly, but the story was unmistakably about me, a woman exaggerating abuse to build a following, stealing designs from collaborators, playing victim for attention. The accusations came from different accounts with different names, but the patterns were identical. Repetition, escalation, fake sympathy, and buried among them, links to newer portfolios, his already climbing in search rankings. "He's not just challenging your work," Lena said. "He's rewriting the timeline. If enough people see his version first, yours will start to look like a reaction." What do I do? You bury him with consistency. Keep working, keep publishing, and document everything. I can't focus. Then you figure out how. This is the part where most people fold. I left the studio and went to Jules's place, hoping to shut it all out. She took one look at me, pushed the laptop off her lap, and asked what he'd done now. I told her about the takedown notice. She didn't ask what came next. She went to her bedroom and came back with a shoebox filled with receipts, text printouts, and voice memos she'd recorded after every call I had with Sean back when we still lived together. I had no idea she'd kept any of it. Why do you have this? Because I knew you'd need it one day, and I also knew you wouldn't want to. I sat at her kitchen table with every piece of paper spread out. Contracts, dated files, PayPal records, a scribbled note I'd once left her apologizing for not showing up to her art opening because Sean had insisted I stay home and help him meet a deadline. Each one chipped away at the story he was selling. He hadn't just taken my work, he'd erased every version of me that didn't serve him. Jules leaned over and pointed to a section of an old invoice. This one proves he was paid through your account for a commission you did. That connects the money, not just the art. That's leverage. I didn't sleep that night. I pulled everything into a timeline, ordered folders, matched emails to sketches, voice memos to revisions. It didn't feel like reclaiming anything. It felt like building a wall I should have had in place from the beginning. The next morning, I got a call from V. He showed up again, she said, her voice low. He talked to Mom for almost an hour. She's convinced now. She thinks you're trying to destroy his career out of jealousy. She told him that? She told me that. She won't say it to you because she doesn't want to hear you disagree. I don't care what she believes anymore. I think you do. You just stopped saying it out loud. V hesitated, then added, she's threatening to go public with her version if you don't take the post down. What version? That he supported you financially. That the work was collaborative. That you went after him out of spite after the breakup. Is she serious? She said you either come home and apologize privately or she'll make it public. I'm not coming home. I told her you wouldn't. I hung up and sat still for a long time. Kayla came in just after noon. She saw my face, didn't speak, just handed me an envelope. I pulled your old client contracts, she said. There's enough in here to shut down every licensing claim he's made. But you'll have to decide how far you want to take it. Meaning? You go forward, it's a war. It won't just be Sean. Your mother will take his side. People will use your name as shorthand for drama. Some will stop working with you just to avoid the noise. I looked at the envelope. What's the alternative? You pull everything, let it fade. Start new work under a different name. No noise, no fight, no justice. Jules sat down across from me. If you stay quiet now, you'll never trust your own voice again. Even if you win later, you'll always wonder if it was worth it. Lena stepped in behind her. It's not about winning. It's about being unerasable. I reached for the envelope. I'm filing it, I said. Every single one. Let them watch. The panel was scheduled for a Thursday night, hosted at a sleek downtown event space filled with people who wore intention on their faces and certainty in their shoes. I wasn't on the list. I didn't ask to be. But Kayla said he'd be speaking, and I needed to see for myself what he looked like when he thought no one was watching with the whole picture. The lobby was packed. Someone offered me a name tag. I declined. I stayed near the back wall, arms folded, face neutral. Sean stood at the center of a semicircle on stage, flanked by two other speakers and a moderator in a blazer that probably cost more than everything I owned combined. He was clean-shaven, wearing the glasses he used to leave smudged on purpose so he looked less sharp. He smiled the same way he used to smile when meeting my clients, rehearsed and flexible. The moderator asked about authorship in digital collaboration. Sean leaned into his mic and talked about blurred boundaries, shared vision, and mutual creative growth. He didn't mention my name, but everyone who knew the story could hear it. One of the panelists asked if he'd ever experienced the downside of creative partnership. He answered without pause. Only when ego gets involved. When people start believing their contribution outweighs the process. A few people nodded. One woman beside me made a small sound of agreement. He glanced toward the back once, scanning the crowd without landing on me. He kept his gaze moving. After the panel, I waited near the exit. I knew he'd come through. He liked to be congratulated. When he saw me, his expression didn't shift. He approached like nothing was wrong. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said. "I figured that out when you started talking. I didn't name you. You didn't need to." He nodded like I'd proven his point. "You're not going to make a scene here. You already did. I'm just here to witness it. You've made things harder for both of us." "You mean for you?" "I mean for anyone who wanted to avoid making this uglier than it had to be. You knew what you were doing before I said anything. You just didn't think I'd talk. I thought you'd weigh the cost. But I was wrong." I pulled a printed envelope from my bag. "This is a formal notice. Every contract you violated. Every timestamp. You'll be served next week, but I figured I'd let you see it early." He didn't take it. "You can't win this," he said. "You don't have the money to fight me. I don't need to win to make sure you don't get to rewrite the story." He looked past me, saw a few people from the panel watching us, and shifted his stance. "This obsession is going to ruin your credibility. I stopped needing permission to exist. That makes people uncomfortable, not unprofessional. You think anyone really cares who created what? They care who delivers. They care who sells it best. Then you should be fine. You've always been good at selling things that aren't yours." He stepped closer. His voice dropped. "You want me to be the villain because it makes you feel brave. But you were just as complicit. You didn't speak up when I started taking credit. You liked the protection. You liked the comfort." "You're right," I said. "I did. I liked believing someone else could carry the pressure. Until I realized what it cost me." He smiled then, a short twitch. "You've gotten better at saying things that sound profound. And you've gotten better at staying just close enough to the truth that people believe your version first." He moved past me without another word. The envelope was still in my hand. That night, I met Jules and Bea at a diner. Bea had driven down from Seattle without telling anyone. She said she needed to see my face. Said Mom had told the rest of the family I was suing Sean out of revenge. Jules handed me her phone and showed me a message from a mutual contact. Sean's attorney had already tried to contact the gallery, asking for a public clarification. Not a retraction. A soft walk back. Proof he knew the case wouldn't hold up. "They're afraid," Jules said. "That means it's working." "Fear doesn't make them stop," I said. "It just makes them quieter until the next window opens." Bea didn't look away. "So don't leave any windows open." "You said something to me once," Jules added. "That you felt like you had to earn your right to speak. That's the only thing he ever needed from you." Silence dressed up as professionalism. I sat back and looked around the diner. The people around us were just living their lives. Ordering coffee. Tapping on phones. Wiping ketchup from plastic menus. No one cared about stolen art or misattributed credit. And that was the point. None of this was going to be dramatic. None of it was going to feel like justice. It was just going to be me, refusing to vanish again, no matter how dull or exhausting that process became. "Then we finish it," I said. "No more posts. No more arguments. Just every receipt, every deadline, every correction." "That's how you win," Bea said. "Not by getting loud. By staying visible long enough they have to see you." 3 days before the court filing, Kayla called a meeting at the studio. She didn't give a reason. Lena was already there, leaning against the desk with a folder under one arm and her coat still on. Jules arrived late, holding coffee she didn't drink. Everyone looked at me when I walked in like I was supposed to have answers. I didn't. "There's been a new development," Lena said, opening the folder. "Sean's lawyers sent over a proposed settlement." "They're offering money?" I asked. "No. They're offering terms. They want you to retract your copyright claim, remove your name from any overlapping works, and agree not to pursue further action. In exchange, they'll remove all counterclaims and allow you to continue selling new work without interference." Kayla didn't speak. Jules stared at the coffee. "So they want me to pretend none of it happened," I said. "They're not calling it that. They're calling it a clean break." "What happens if I say no?" "We move forward. It gets public. It gets slower. More expensive. More draining. But you stay in the fight. What happens if I say yes?" "They rewrite the story, and you let them." Bea called me later that night. She didn't know about the offer, but she could tell something had shifted. I told her everything. She didn't react right away. I think you already made the decision, she said. You're just afraid of what it means. What do you think I should do? I think you've spent most of your life surviving other people's decisions. This one has to come from you. I stayed up that night in the studio, opening old files, looking at the early versions of my work, the ones I never posted, the ones I never finished. I remembered how I used to design just for myself. Before commissions, before client notes, before Sean. Those pieces were rough, but they were mine. I looked through them for hours, until I found one that I'd almost deleted a year ago. It was simple. A figure with no face, arms wide, not in celebration, not in surrender, just in refusal to fold. The next morning, I walked into the studio with my decision already made. Lena was the first to arrive. Tell them no, I said. File everything. Let them push it to court. Let them try to exhaust me. She nodded once, didn't smile. You're sure? Yes. They'll smear you harder after this. Then I'll stop hiding. Kayla arrived just after. I didn't wait for her to sit down. I'm going to submit the old pieces to the public archive, I said. Every sketch, every revision. I'll attach my name to all of it, time-stamped, organized. If people want to see the process, they'll get all of it. You're opening yourself to more attacks. I don't care. You will. Maybe. But that's not enough reason to stay small. Jules didn't say anything until everyone else left. She waited until we were alone. I need to show you something, she said, pulling out her phone. It was a video. Sean, standing outside the gallery during the panel night. He was talking to someone off camera, laughing. The caption was recent, posted just hours ago. Someone had recognized him and posted the clip as part of a new thread, calling out the irony of him speaking on ethics while his accuser built her case. It was already gaining attention. Not from our world. From theirs. His. This wasn't part of our plan, I said. No. But it changes things. Will it help? I don't know. But it's happening either way. I watched the clip again. He looked relaxed. Confident. Like nothing he'd done had touched him. Like it never would. I thought I'd feel good watching this, I said. I don't. You don't want revenge. You want your name. I want him to stop pretending he made me. He knows he didn't. That's why he's still trying to prove he did. I left the studio and walked home in the rain. I didn't cover my head. I didn't rush. I wasn't thinking about the court case, or the money, or the followers I'd lost. I was thinking about the piece I'd found the night before. The one I almost deleted. I had drawn it during the worst week of the year, and I didn't remember finishing it. But it was there. Untouched. Complete. No filters. No corrections. Just mine. The hearing wasn't public, but someone leaked the date. By the time I arrived at the courthouse, there were people standing outside, most of them with phones out, pretending to scroll while watching the entrance. I didn't stop. I didn't speak to anyone. Lena had warned me not to react to anything unless spoken to directly. It wasn't a trial, just a pre-motion session, but it still felt like something irreversible. Sean arrived 10 minutes late, no lawyer, just a black folder under his arm and a practiced expression that said nothing could touch him. He didn't look at me when he passed. He kept his head high, eyes forward, walking like he was still performing for a room that didn't exist. The judge was brisk. There was no drama, no raised voices, just questions and clarifications. Lena answered most of them. I was asked to confirm submission dates, original file ownership, and whether I had profited off the pieces in question. When I said no, Sean shifted slightly in his seat but didn't object. The judge asked him to clarify his role in the disputed designs. He described himself as an informal consultant. Said he had advised me on presentation, tone, market direction. Never claimed to have created the work outright. It was a calculated move, vague enough to avoid perjury, but sharp enough to keep doubt alive. Lena handed over the final folder. Inside was a complete timeline of my work, including signed correspondence, annotated drafts, and third-party confirmations from clients who had seen early versions. It was undeniable. He had nothing to counter it with. The judge glanced over the pages, paused for a moment, then said the motion for summary dismissal would be reviewed and a decision would be emailed within the week. Outside, the air was still. No one spoke to me. Sean was already gone. That night, I walked into Kayla's office without knocking. She was on a call. She ended it without saying goodbye and looked at me. "Does it get better?" I asked. She didn't pretend not to understand. She stood up, walked to the corner cabinet, pulled out 2 glasses, and filled them with water. "No," she said. "But it stops repeating once you stop making space for the people who built the damage." I thought I'd feel something. Relief. Anger. Closure. You wanted it to feel like something finished. What you got was the start of something different. I wasted years protecting him, fixing things he broke, apologizing for my discomfort so he wouldn't have to sit in his own. You did what you were taught. That doesn't make it right, but it makes it understandable. I took a long breath, nodded once, and left. I didn't want to sit with anyone. I didn't want comfort. I wanted to be alone with the silence and see if it still scared me. The email came 4 days later. Lena forwarded it without comment. The court had ruled in my favor. Full attribution returned. All filings against me cleared. No damages awarded, no public statement required. A clean win on paper. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I shut my laptop and didn't open it again for the rest of the day. A week later, I got a call from B. She was in Manila again. Our mother had decided not to attend church for the first time in 20 years, claiming she needed rest, but then called B 3 times before noon asking about local gossip and whether people were talking about what had happened. "She won't say it, but she's waiting for you to call," B said. "I'm not going to. I didn't think you would. I just thought you should know. I can't go back to pretending her silence wasn't a choice. No one's asking you to." I walked to the window and looked down at the street. A woman stood at the corner, holding a giant sign advertising a grand opening. She looked bored but committed, waving at cars that didn't slow down. "Are you okay?" B asked. "I think I'm finally angry for the right reasons." That's a start. Later that night, Jules came by with a flyer in her hand. A new art space was opening on the east side, one that paid emerging artists to display personal work in raw form, sketches, prototypes, unfinished pieces. They wanted authenticity, not polish. She'd submitted my name without telling me. They'd picked me for the next cycle. "They want something that hasn't been seen before," she said. "I don't know what that looks like yet." "Then make it. But do it as you." I spent 3 days thinking about what to submit. I pulled out every sketchbook I'd kept in boxes, everything I'd once considered too incomplete or too specific. Then I built a wall out of them in the studio. No frames, no explanations. Just proof that I existed before anyone tried to edit me. The day the gallery opened, someone I didn't know came up to me with a phone in her hand and a look on her face like she was about to apologize for something. Instead, she said, "I almost didn't come tonight. I've been drawing for years and never showed anyone. I saw your work online. I saw what happened." It made me realize I don't want to wait for permission either. I didn't know how to answer her. I didn't say thank you. I didn't try to soften it. I just nodded and let her speak. That felt like enough. We spend so much of our lives apologizing for our existence that we forget the damage doesn't start when someone takes something from us. It starts when we convince ourselves they had the right to. The truth is simple. I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I stopped letting fear shape my voice.